Hi everyone, for this tutorial I'll be showing you how to make this top. I'll be making a size small, but you can follow along for the different sizes. For the materials you will need yarn. I'm using 100% cotton and the recommended hook on mine is 3.5 millimeters. So this is a 4-ply yarn, or it's a category 2, that's a sport weight yarn. Now I've got my 3 colors that I'll be using, and then for my hook I'll go up one size larger than the recommended hook. So the recommended hook is a 3.5 millimeter hook on the yarn label, and I'll go up to use a 4.5 millimeter hook. Then you'll need a pair of scissors, a yarn or wool needle, and a measuring tape. Let's get on with this tutorial. We'll begin with the foundation round. So we're working a foundation double crochet for round 1. So it's form a slip knot. Then chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Into that first chain is where we'll work our first stitch. So it's yarn over, insert your hook into that first chain, pull up a loop. You have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and go through only 1 loop on the hook. Now you'll see that you formed a little chain right here. So this will be the start of our next stitch. Then it's yarn over, go through 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, go through 2 loops on your hook. Now we formed our second stitch. Those 3 chains that we had initially skipped becomes our first stitch. So for our third stitch, so that was our first stitch, second stitch, now it's our third stitch. So it's yarn over, insert your hook into that little chain that we had formed, going through both loops from that chain, yarn over, pull up a loop. We've got 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, go through 1 loop on our hook. Now we formed another chain. This will be the start of our next stitch. I always sort of place my fingers there just to guide me along that that's the start of the next stitch. With 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, go through 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, go through 2 loops on the hook. So we formed our third stitch. Then it's yarn over, insert your hook into that chain, going into 2 loops from that chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through 1 loop on your hook, forming a little chain, the start of our next stitch. Yarn over, go through 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, go through 2 loops on your hook. So we formed our 4th stitch. So you continue on in this way to form your foundation double crochet round. Here are the shoulder to shoulder measurements for the different sizes. Remember, you may pause the video to jot down the measurement. These sizes are from child 2 years to adult 5XL. You will need this measurement to continue on with the pattern. I've continued on with my foundation double crochet round. So here it is. You'll work a length of stitches for this round. Then the next thing to do is to go ahead and measure this foundation double crochet round. So you'll measure it unstretched. Do not stretch on this length. Just bring it together as it is and lay it out flat, unstretched. from one end to the next, measure that length. You're looking for a measurement that measures the shoulder to shoulder measurement for the size that you are working plus 4 inches. Now I'm working a size small, so the shoulder to shoulder measurement for a size small is 15 inches. And then I need to add on a further 4 inches. So that brings it to 19 inches. Once you've got that measurement, you will go ahead and count the number of stitches. Now you need your stitch count to be in multiples of 11 plus 2 in order to work the stitch pattern. Now I've already done that. I have 79 stitches for my top. Now when you adjust, you can either decrease your stitches to adjust, or you can work more stitches to adjust it. When you decrease, you tighten up on the top, and when you increase, you loosen up on that foot of the top. If I had an opinion, I would rather increase the number of stitches. I find that I'd rather be safer with a looser fit on my top than going too tight. But remember that at the end it does stretch out, so that's fine. Okay, so the first thing you do is measure your foundation round, and then you will count the number of stitches and adjust it to a stitch count of 11 plus 2. So that's in multiples of 11 stitches, and then right at the end you'll have 2 extra stitches. I have 79 stitches. So 77 is in a multiple of 11, and then it's my plus 2, bringing it up to 79. Continuing on, round 2, chain 2 and turn. Chain 2 always counts as a stitch, our first stitch, and it's a double crochet. Into the next 5 stitches, work 1 double crochet each. So to work a double crochet, it's yarn over, insert your hook into that stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, go through 2 loops on your hook. So that was 1, then it's 2, 3, 4, 5. So including our chain 2, which counted as a stitch, we have 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then it's chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and 10 double crochets. So here goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the stitch pattern is chain 1, skip 1, 10 double crochets, and you'll continue on with this stitch pattern to your last 7 stitches. I've continued on with my stitch pattern. It's chain 1, skip 1, 10 double crochets, and here I am at my last 7 stitches. So then it's a chain 1, skip 1, and into the last 6 stitches work 1 double crochet per stitch. So that was 3, 4, 5, and 6. So you're ending off with 6 double crochets. Round 3, chain 2 and turn. Chain 2 counts as our first stitch. Into the next 3 stitches, work 1 double crochet each. So that's 1, 2, 3, then it's a chain 1, skip 1, 3 double crochets. So that's 1. Your second double crochet will be into this chain space, 2, 3, then it's chain 1, skip 1, 6 double crochets. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, chain 1, skip 1, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, skip 1, 6 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our stitch pattern is chain 1, skip 1, 3 double crochets. Here your second double crochet will be into the chain space, then it's chain 1, skip 1, 6 double crochets. Continue on to the last 4 stitches. I've continued on with round 3, so right at the end, here it is, I worked my chain 1, skip 1, and I ended off with 4 double crochets. Round 4, chain 2 and turn. Chain 2 counts as our first stitch. Into the next stitch, work a double crochet. Then it's chain 1, skip 1, and here you're working 7 double crochets. So that's 1. Your second double crochet will be into a chain space, 2, 3, 4, 5. Your sixth double crochet will be into the next chain space, 6, and then it's 7. Then it's chain 1, skip 1, and you're working 2 double crochets. So that's 1, 2. So my stitch pattern for this round is chain 1, skip 1, 7 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then it's chain 1, skip 1, 2 double crochets, 1, 2. Continue on to the end of the round. Once you get to the end of round 4, you've worked your 7 double crochets, and then you have 3 stitches remaining. So then it's chain 1, skip 1, and finish off with 2 double crochets, in 1 double crochet per stitch. So here it is. Now at this point, we'll be working the extreme drop stitch. Now these 3 rounds, round 2, round 3, and round 4, was in preparation for our round 5. So in order to work the extreme drop stitch, we need to have these chain spaces as you see here. So I'm going to go ahead and fasten off, and I'll bring in my change of color. And you've noticed in the pattern that wherever I have worked this round 5 stitch pattern, I have also gone ahead and changed the color of my yarn. So let's look at this. If you look at, okay, let me go to the side. If you look at the pattern here, you've got these chain spaces. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that will make up one of these stitch patterns, the extreme drop stitch. And then if we move on to the next one, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that will make up the second stitch pattern. And it will work in the same order as you see it. The uppermost one will be 1, then it's 2, 3, 4, and 5. So as we work this extreme drop stitch, we'll work loops into these chain spaces. And this will be the first loop that we work into. We'll work 2 loops into there, and then we'll work 2 loops into the second chain space. Into our third chain space, we'll work 3 loops. Into our fourth chain space, we'll work 2 loops. Into our fifth chain space, we'll work 2 loops, and then we'll complete the stitch. So that's the order in which we'll work the stitch pattern. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So right where you fastened off at, here's this point, bring in your change of color. Then it's chain 2, 1, 2, and turn. Into our next stitch, which was the double crochet, work 2 double crochets. So that's 1 and 2. You're working 2 double crochets into 1 stitch. Then it's chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Now we'll be working the extreme drop stitch. So like I told you, we'll be working it into this chain space first, and then into that one, third one, fourth one, and fifth one. So to work the stitch, it's yarn over, insert your hook into that first chain space, pull up a loop and elongate the loop. Yarn over, insert your hook into that chain space, pull up a loop and elongate the loop. You've done that twice. Now you're getting into your second chain space. So it's yarn over, insert your hook into the second chain space, pull up a loop and elongate the loop. Yarn over, insert your hook into the second chain space, pull up a loop, elongate the loop. You've done that twice. Now we're working into our third chain space right at the bottom. So it's yarn over, insert your hook into that third chain space, pull up a loop and elongate the loop. Yarn over, insert your hook into that third chain space, pull up a loop, elongate the loop. Yarn over, insert your hook into that third chain space, pull up a loop, elongate the loop. You've done that 3 times. Now we're working into our fourth chain space. Yarn over, insert your hook into the fourth chain space, pull up a loop and elongate the loop. Yarn over, insert your hook into the fourth chain space, pull up a loop, elongate the loop. You've done that twice. Now you're working into your fifth chain space. Do not confuse it with the chain space from your next stitch pattern, because these two are right next to each other. Make certain that you're working it into the correct chain space. So then it's yarn over, insert your hook into the fifth chain space, pull up a loop, elongate the loop. Yarn over, insert your hook into the 5th chain space, pull up a loop, elongate the loop. You've done that twice. Then it's yarn over. Now here you want to yarn over and get through 22. In total, there's 22 loops, or 23 loops on this hook. But you want to yarn over and get through 22 loops on the hook. So at the end, you want to have 2 loops on your hook. So it's yarn over and pull through 22 loops on your hook, leaving the last loop behind. So this part is really like slightly difficult, but the loop that you're looking to leave behind comes from this chain 3 that we had worked. So even if you don't get it, you can always go back there, pick up on that loop, and here you have it. So you've got 2 loops on your hook, then it's yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. Then it's chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and into the next set of double crochets. Here we have 2 double crochets. You'll work 2 stitches into this double crochet and 2 stitches into the next double crochet. So it's 2 double crochets into the first double crochet, and then it's 2 double crochets into the second double crochet before our next chain space. So just to show you that again, so here's the stitch. Just to show you that again, it's chain 3, 1, 2, 3. So this is the loop that you want to pick up right at the end. Okay, so then now we're working into our first chain space. So it's yarn over, insert into that chain space, pull up a loop and elongate the loop. That was once, and here's twice. Then into my next chain space, yarn over. That was once, twice. Into my third chain space, once, twice, and 3 times into that chain space. Into my 4th chain space, it's once and twice. Into my 5th chain space, that's once and twice. Then it's yarn over, and you want to pull through, leaving that last loop behind. So here it is. Then it's yarn over and go through 2 loops on the hook. Then it's chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Into my set of double crochets here, it's 2 stitches into this double crochet and 2 stitches into that double crochet. So that's 1, 2, 1, and 2. So this is it. Okay, so for those of you that need it, let me go at it one more time. This is quite, at first it's difficult or challenging, but once you get it, it's a lot easier. So it's chain 3, 1, 2, 3. You will always chain 3 before and after this extreme drop stitch. So it's chain 3, and here's my chain spaces. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that we'll be working into. So let's go for it. That's 2 times, 2 times, 3 times, 2 times, 2 times. Then yarn over and pull through all except that last loop. Yarn over, go through 2 loops on your hook, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then it's 2 double crochets, 2 double crochets. So that's 1, 2, 1, and 2. So you'll continue on with this stitch pattern to the end of the round. I've worked my way to the end of round 5. So here I have my stitch pattern and then I chain 3. So I've got 2 stitches to go. So into that next double crochet, I'll work 2 double crochets all into the 1 stitch. And to end off, I'll work 1 more double crochet into the last stitch. So I've ended off with 3 double crochets. Round 6, chain 2 and turn. So here we're working double crochets all across. So we'll work double crochets into all double crochets from the round before. We'll work 3 double crochets in all the chain 3 spaces, and then we'll work 1 double crochet just above the extreme drop stitch. So it's double crochets into all double crochets, 3 double crochets into the chain 3 spaces, 1 double crochet above the drop stitch, 3 double crochets into the chain 3 spaces, double crochets into all double crochets. So you'll continue on with this stitch pattern to the end of the round. When you get to the end of round 6, make certain that you're working your last stitch into that second chain. Remember that second chain counts as a stitch. So into that second chain from chain 2, double crochet. And at this point, your stitch count from round 6 must be the same as when you had started off. So this stitch count here must be the same as from your foundation double crochet round. So I have counted mine and I have 79 stitches. I can move forward. Round 7, chain 2 and turn. Here we're working double crochets into all stitches all across. Continue on to the end of the round. I have continued on, and all I've done here was repeat round 7. So in total I repeated round 7. Let's see, that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 more times. Now this all depends on the length that you're looking for. So you'll repeat round 7 for as many times as need be to get to the length of your top. Now I'm looking to get to just around 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters below the underarm in order for me to work the stitch pattern one more time before getting to the sleeve and the neckline. So this is from the waist going up towards 1.5 or 4 centimeters below the underarm. And then I repeated round 2, round 3, round 4, round 5, and round 6. So once I worked my way with those few rounds, round 2 to round 6 at the top, I can now continue on with the sleeves. and the neckline portion of this top. So the pattern is the same. It's just a repeat again of what we've done with round 2, 3, 4, 5, and round 6 again. And we'll continue to repeat the stitch pattern again once more. Okay, so moving on, continuing from where we had stopped off, we'll just go out, further out into the pattern to form sleeves. So these sleeves are joined to the body of the top. Now here you'll chain a length of chains that's in multiples of 11 plus 2. This is for the length of the sleeve. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and I definitely want it longer, so I'll go on with another set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So you'll continue on for as long as you want your sleeve in sets of 11, and then right at the end you'll chain 2. I've continued on chaining this length of chains for my sleeve, so I repeated the chain of 11 4 times, and if I measured my length of chains, it came out to be at around 12 inches or 30.5 centimeters. So you will chain as many chains as need be in multiples of 11 for the length of your sleeve. If you're looking for a shorter sleeve, it will be fewer chains, and if you're looking for one that's longer, you could go further down. So that's it for me. I've got 44 chains, and then you need to chain a further 2, and that will be your turning chain. It will actually form the first stitch. Then for round 1, I'll call this the sleeve. Round 1 of the sleeve. Into the 4th chain from the hook, double crochet. So here's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Double crochet into that 4th chain. Continue on with double crochets into all chains, and as you get on into the body of the top here, you'll work double crochets into these stitches as well all the way through. I've worked those double crochets into the chain for my sleeve, and I have the same number of stitches that I had worked in multiples of 11. So it's 44 stitches for me. Remember, I had chained a chain of 44 plus 2. So I end up with 44 stitches. Then I'll continue on with my double crochets to the end of this round. I've continued on with those double crochets along the body of this top, and here I am at the end. Remember to always work your last stitch into that second chain from chain 2s, because our chain 2s count as stitches. Now we formed the start of our sleeve on this side, and we need to do the same on the opposite side. So here we're going to work the foundation double crochet along this row round for the second sleeve. So here, right at the bottom of our stitch, if you look at our stitch, here's the post of our stitch, and at the bottom of our stitch, we'll work our foundation double crochet into that bottom. So let's look at it here, right here. Right here is where we'll work our the start of our stitch. So the number of stitches that you've worked for your sleeve on the opposite side, in my case I worked 44. I will need to do the same on this side. So I'm looking to work 44 stitches. You will work the same number that you had worked for your first sleeve. So right here, it's yarn over. Insert your hook into the bottom of that stitch, right at the bottom of that post. Pull up a loop. Yarn over, go through 1 loop on the hook. Yarn over, go through 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over, go through 2 loops on the hook. So that was our first stitch. Now that first chain that we formed at the bottom will be the start of our next stitch. So it's exactly as we had worked the foundation double crochet round. It's yarn over, insert your hook into that chain right at the bottom, going through both loops on the hook. Pull up a loop, yarn over, go through 1 loop on the hook. That becomes the start of your next stitch. Then it's yarn over, go through 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, go through 2 loops on the hook. Again, yarn over, insert your hook into that chain, going through both loops on that chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through 1 loop on the hook. There's the start of your next stitch right there. Yarn over, go through 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over, go through 2 loops on your hook. So you continue on in this way to form your next sleeve. Remember, your stitch count must be the same as your first sleeve. I've continued on, and this is what it looks like. So that's the first sleeve, and then as we move on, here's the second sleeve. So the number of stitches here is exactly the same as it is for my first sleeve. For me, it's 44 on the side and 44 on that side. So yours may be more or less depending on how long or short you want your sleeve at. And then we'll continue on, work double crochets to 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters before the top of the shoulder. So that's right at the top of the shoulder or at the neckline. For round 2 of, I'll call this the sleeve, neckline sleeve, it's chain 2, turn, work double crochets into all stitches right across to the other end of the other sleeve. Here are the armhole depth measurements for the different sizes from child size 2 years to adult 5XL. You will need these measurements to continue on with the pattern. Jot down the measurement for the size that you are working on. I've continued on working my sleeve, and so after round 6 I had worked my first round of my sleeve on either side, where I worked the chain on one side and the foundation double crochet on the other. And then I went on to work double crochets back and forth for my sleeve right across on the other side. Now, at this point, I worked my sleeve until the width of my sleeve measured the armhole depth for the size that I'm working, less 1.5 inches. Now that 1.5 inches will account for my sleeve detail that runs along the sides of my sleeve. So that's why we are short by 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters on my sleeve, on the armhole depth of the sleeve. So those measurements you will find in the clip that you saw before. You'll use the armhole depth for the size that you are working. And then obviously it's less 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters. Now we need to mark off the neckline, and I've already gone ahead and done that. Here it is, but I will show you how to do that. So you go ahead from the one end of your sleeve and you count in multiples of 11 to get to around, or should I say into the body of your top, to get into the shoulder portion of the body of your top. So here's the body of my top, and this would be the shoulder portion. And then we've got the sleeve on that side. So I got into the body of my top for my shoulder here. So I counted in multiples of 11 and marked it off. So it's multiples of 11 plus 2. So I worked, it was 6 sets of 11 for me, and then I added on a further 2 stitches and I marked it off with a stitch marker. I did the same on the other side, counting from this edge in multiples of 11, the same number as I had worked for the other sleeve, plus 2, and I marked it off on this side. So in between here, we have our neckline. Now you can gauge from this to see whether you want it, your neckline, wider, or is it right for what you're looking for. Remember that we will be adding depth to this neckline, so it will be much wider than what you see from these 2 stitch markers, because we're working a few more rounds and we'll work the stitch detail here in between. So it is going to be quite deep, so that would make for quite a deep neckline. Just be careful not to make your neckline too wide. It just has to be in multiples of 11 plus 2 on this side, because we're working our stitch detail for the sleeve. So once you've got your neckline, and remember the number of stitches on the one sleeve must be the same as on the other. So here it is, I've got the neckline along the center of my body, as you see here, marked off. Then without fastening off, I went on to repeat round 2, 3, and 4 on my sleeve up until my first stitch marker. So here you see it, it's just a repeat, and again we're setting up for our round 5 where we'll work the drop stitch into these chain 1s along the sleeve. So now I can fasten off on the one side, and then I'll go back. I'll attach yarn on the other side, and I'll repeat round 2, 3, 4, just as I had done on this side, up until my stitch marker. So there will be no stitch pattern along the neckline. So when you are working on this side of your sleeve, in order to keep your stitch pattern, because you see that this double crochets, it does form little lines as we go along. So to keep the correct direction of your stitches, like when you started here, you had started from this end working that way. So to continue on with that stitch pattern, attach yarn to your stitch marker at your neckline and then work in this direction. I've continued on as you see here. So here's the body portion, here's my sleeves, and here's the neckline. And then I went on to repeat, do my round 5 repeat here, and I fastened off. I left behind long tail ends to help with the seaming. So you'll go ahead and work another panel for your back body in exactly the same way as you worked this panel. I've gone ahead and completed my second body. So this is for the front body, and here I have for the back body. Now these are 2 exact panels. So we'll go ahead now and join along the upper shoulder, or sleeve rather. So when it comes to these tail ends, there is no need to leave tail ends on both the panels. It's just enough to leave it on one panel on either side. That's just to help with the seaming. So you can go ahead with your yarn needle. Now when we seam, let me just orientate this. So when we seam along the top end, we're going to seam into these double crochets. So we're going to match the double crochets on either side and seam only those stitches. When it comes to our drop stitch, we'll leave that unseamed. So to get from one stitch to the next, we'll weave through our chain to get to the next stitch. So this is it. So right at the start, there are 3 double crochets. You'll seam into those 3 double crochets. And then when you get to, now you've got the chain. So we'll weave into that chain. We'll weave our needle into that chain until we get to our next set of double crochets, which are these 4 double crochets here. So I've weaved there. Make certain to stretch it out as you go. And you'll align your drop stitch with the drop stitch on the other side and your double crochets with the double crochets on the other side. Then you'll seam along those double crochets. That's the second one. And the third one. And now for the 4th one. Then here we're back at the chain. So get into that chain and weave through that chain all the way to our next set of double crochets. So this is what it looks like when you open it up. You've just got it weaved or seamed at, so that's what it looks like when you open it up. So you've just got it seamed along the double crochets and you're weaving in through the chain. You'll continue on to the end of the sleeve. I've seamed along the top edge of my sleeve, and I've done the same on the other side as well. Now to seam along the sides. So with the change of color here, you will need to change the color of your yarn as you work your way. So for this first part, I'll use the same color to seam along these edges. With our sleeves seamed on both sides and along the sides all seamed, we can go ahead and weave in all these ends. To weave in these ends, you need to match your colors. So you'll weave in the same color into the same color. So here goes. And all you need to do here is go back and forth into your stitches. And that does it for this tutorial. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.